The Houston Dynamo put an end to a 4-game losing streak. Still unbeaten in 5, but we're going to look at the positives here. What else will we do on Inside the Hexagon, an official podcast covering Houston Dynamo FC, as we dive into the 6 sides of the club here on The Striker, obviously presented by thestriker.com. I call your one-stop shop to get in on all the Texas clubs. We got the LA MLS clubs as well, Atlanta, some NWSL there too, with Houston, San Diego, and Angel City. So get on in on thestriker.com, 1 month trial to start off. So if you just want to check it out and see if you want to try before you buy, thestriker.com. So let's get into the Houston Dynamo this week. First of all, obviously, yours truly, Victor Araiza, and I'm joined every week by Laura Gomez. Laura, I'm saying positivity because last minute goal by Sebastian Ferreira brings us a little bit more of interest to talk about this week. How's your week been since the game?
I'm good. I want to say hello to everyone. I hope everybody is having an amazing week, and I agree. Let's talk about some positive things. But before we head into talking about what the Dynamo did or didn't do, we kind of wanted to touch base on a little bit about somebody that was part of the Houston Dynamo club for a short time, Jamey Rootes, who was for a long time the president of the Houston Texans. Unfortunately, he passed away this week. He was 56 years old. And we kind of just wanted to just touch base on that and just talk a little bit about his legacy and,
Yeah, paying our respects real quick to Jamey Rootes, like you mentioned, his wife announcing his passing on Monday night. I think obviously here in Houston, because of what you mentioned, his long time, 2 decades with the Houston Texans, obviously part of Lone Star Sports Entertainment, which is in charge of getting a lot of the soccer games up there at NRG Stadium, bringing the Copa America Centenario, and a lot of these high-profile matches, USA versus Mexico, right, for the first time in 2003. A lot of people maybe don't know that.
They don't know that,
resume,
exactly.
He actually was a college soccer player at Clemson University, won 2 national championships, went on to be an assistant at the University of, if I'm not mistaken, the University of Indiana, where he coached the Columbus Crew, now head coach, Caleb Porter. Obviously moved on to the Columbus Crew, was tabbed by the late great Lamar Hunt, was obviously one of the founding fathers of not just American football, but soccer in the United States. For the start of the Crew, was the first president general manager of the Columbus Crew, helped get the first soccer-specific stadium in this country up, right, with the Columbus Crew Stadium. And then, through the recommendation of Hunt, that's how he got the avenue here to Houston, came to the Texans. We mentioned, obviously, all the soccer events here. Resigned with the Texans and Lone Star Sports Entertainment, what was it, a couple of years ago, 2021, last year.
Yeah.
And that's when the Dynamo picked him up, right? Ted Segal announced him as the new CEO of Houston Dynamo, Houston Dash. In his presentation, which of course we'll have some Ted Segal news coming up too. And the weird thing is, right, like about two weeks later, a little bit over 2 weeks later.
Very short-lived. I mean,
parts ways.
Surprising.
Takes a leave of absence, I think is the correct terminology on the statement from the club. Essentially part ways because he didn't come back. I believe he was an instructor at Sam Houston State University. He had just got announced to lead a program at Rice University. So, and then obviously I think was part of the one of the funds here for the city. I think I'm not mistaken, it had to do with COVID, raising money. The point is, big figure in Houston, and obviously in the NFL, MLS landscape.
In both, I mean, whatever you want to say, football or soccer, he was just very always involved in both sports, and it's truly a loss. I covered the Texans for many years. And I was able to meet him a couple of times, briefly, of course, because I was always running up and down when you have to go cover the Texans. It was always very respectful the times that I got to meet him. I interviewed him once. So it is sad. I know that his wife, Melissa, just posted on Facebook saying that he had a long battle with mental health illness. And she also, I'm going to give you like a little quote she read. So she put, if you or your loved one are thinking about suicide or experiencing a health crisis, call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline right now, 1-800-273-8255. And that's something that she wrote on her Facebook. And, I wanted to kind of give that number out there as well, just in case anybody is going through something. We've had a couple of tough years, honestly. And it's okay to not feel strong all the time or not feel okay or fine. And, there's a lot of avenues that you can reach out to get the help you need. So we don't really know the cause of his immediate death. But just some of the things that are kind of surrounding or kind of saying out there, it has to do with mental health.
Yeah. And real quick, I think, I think they made it easier for the suicide and crisis hotline, 988. If you just text that or dial that, I think that'll get you there too. But either way, right? If you have thought, I think there's always an exit to every problem. I think, in Spanish, I think we have a saying, right? Like, todo tiene remedio menos la muerte, right? Everything
Mm-hmm.
Everything can be solved except death. So I think, reach out. I think the biggest thing here, it's sad, right? Because he was 56.
Young.
Powerful figure in Houston. Again, was also recognized, right? I think by the United Way of Houston. Big time contributor to charity. I think by way of his position, right? Obviously, through the Texans, and here's a guy you probably say, man, he got everything,
Successful.
right? But it's a problem. But mental health, right? It gets you. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if you're rich or poor or what, right? So I think. But the biggest thing I think too is just I feel for the family. I think this always affects more people. There's always people out there that love you. I think it's a thing we're seeing with the outpouring show of support for Jamey Rootes here and the honoring after his passing. That there's always people there that that care for you, even if you feel like there isn't. And yeah, again. I think the number is 988. Dial it if you have to. Don't necessarily have to feel compromised. I think there's people there to talk for whatever reason, and yeah.
Confidential. Yeah, it's confidential, and the hardest step sometimes is just to reach out. And once you've done that, it's nothing but up. So, yeah.
Rest in peace, Jamey Rootes, and everybody who suffered mental health. Let's segue here a little bit to the Houston Dynamo, right? They've been going through a rough patch as well.
I laugh because you said, they've been going through a rough patch, and I just kind of said, I've heard you say this before, and I don't want to get into the same kind of rhythm as other podcasts, so I'm just gonna let you finish. Go ahead. Yes.
No, but patch. It's the thing about this trip, actually, there was about, I think, 40 members. It might have been mixed, but the one banner we saw out there was the Surge, right? 40 Dynamo supporters or so in the supporters section out in Colorado. I believe there was from what the Dynamo tweeted out, suite holders that were invited for this trip out to Denver as well, and I think there's something in the works for supporters also for season ticket holders out in the final road trip of the year for Nashville. The point is, plenty of Dynamo jerseys in the building, more so than for usual road games. And in the end, I think the way this one ends up, the last minute on the very last play, Ferreira rescues the game, gives Dynamo fans that made the trip a reason to cheer, right, and leave not
Yeah.
feeling so much empty-handed. Overall, I think looking at this one, when I saw the lineups come out and when I saw the report that Diego Rubio was not going to be part of this, I was like, that's a huge break. I mean, you're talking about the leader in goals and assists for the Colorado
Mm-hmm.
Rapids, the guy that has an argument to have been an all-star, missing from this match, their creator on the field. And here's an opportunity to truly go out there and get 3 points. And you're right, we've said this about many games, whether it be at home, on the road. And Houston tried to come out aggressively. Herrera was a little bit higher up the field, had I think the best chance of the first half. Ultimately, similar mistakes. Colorado's goal comes in, early in the second half due to a set piece, second chance off a corner, and that's really what it was.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that goal, but then again, it's like little mistakes that I've seen in prior games too, because there was nobody really kind of defending that side. I mean, the player was able to kind of get in front of, and nobody was really there to kind of block them. I mean,
Yeah,
so.
lack of organization also.
Mm-hmm.
But things change in the 80th minute. Acosta gets a red card. I believe formerly FC Dallas as well. So there's a couple FC Dallas guys out in Colorado. Michael Barrios as well. But Acosta gets the double yellow in the 80th minute. Dynamo are up a man to be able to sort of go forward a little bit. Guys that started on the bench like Quintero, like Fafa Pico, Darwin Seren, they came on to give the team a little bit of fresh legs, and ultimately they get that 1-1 result. I think had we talk about this in recent games, it had been 3 points. This would be a different perspective. You can, because of finding the way to win, you can start saying, all right, you got one. How can you build on this one? How can you get another win? How can you, right? And then we can at least start to open up the conversation about a potential miracle playoff run, or at least give it a run,
Yeah.
something, right? But I mean, it just the way the team is playing, it's rough. You see the same, more of the same still. I think with 8 games left, it's about trying to get the most value out of this. We've talked about this in the prior episodes. I've mentioned, try to, maybe go for younger players getting minutes. At the same time, you can make the argument players playing for jobs. That may be the case for a guy like Corey Baird, who hasn't played as much recently, why he got the start in this match. Possibly, right? Maybe you still want to find out which trident in midfield is going to be the one for the future, right? I mean, I think for today, you could say it's Herrera, Carrasquilla, and Quintero. You're 3 more talented guys in midfield.
Yeah,
but
of course.
maybe it's Vera. Maybe it's where does Seren fit into that? I think there's a case to be made here, for Parker and Steres at the back. Where does that leave Kadebe, who's also been out injured, still training separately? I mean, there's a lot of questions still with the Houston Dynamo. Ultimately, not going to make the playoffs this year. I think that goes without said. But I think, again, in trying to look for positive strides, it's a little tough because this point, the only thing it did do is it did leave Houston, in penultimate place. They would have been last place if they lost this game because Kansas City won. Kansas City and Houston are both, on 26 points. Kansas City is last place in the Western Conference because of goal difference. Again, rough time for Houston because they just keep falling down the table. There's what do you pull away from the current state of the team?
I mean, and I'm, sorry, listeners. It's just, I go into coming in here and really trying to talk about something different, right? Because I feel like we've been I feel like a hamster. I've been going in the same direction, round and round and round. But it's things that every game, I see some of the same things going on. And it's like, we have to talk about them. So it's like this madhouse that's like the same thing over and over. I mean, what positive takes away? I mean, that they were able to pull off a tie, that they didn't get scored on more. They didn't get scored on more. They didn't lose. I mean, I see some highlights here and there honestly, with the goal that Ferreira did, it also makes me kind of want to kind of like question, really, to see what he would be capable of if he had the right elements, filtering the balls to him. Because sometimes I think it's a little bit unfair, unfortunately for him, that he's not being, running to be, the goal scorer of the team or one of the best of the MLS and things like that. Like we mentioned before, the type of player he is, I mean, he's supposed to be a player that, scores. And it's difficult sometimes.
He's shown the quality. There is good news on that front. We should announce Nelson Quiñones is in town now. The Colombian winger.
Is it good news?
It's something. I mean, it's a new face. It's again when you
I'm tired of new faces. I'm tired of new faces and no results. Honestly, like,
there's gonna have to be more new faces.
But when I say new faces, it's for, in my opinion, honestly, I'm Colombian, so I am obviously excited to see more Colombians have the opportunity to come into the MLS, do better, get their money, get their, career going. And that's amazing. But why is a Dynamo? Why is a Dynamo the one that picks up players that I had never heard of? And I follow the Colombian league.
You just want more known commodities.
I'm not
more
even
name
saying
signings.
More name signing. I'm not even saying, hey, let's get, the best Colombian player, or let's get the best Argentinian player, because most of those players aren't ready really to come into the MLS. They're really trying to aim towards Europe, towards even Argentina or Liga MX, just different leagues. But give me a player that at least I know has played in the first league, and the first league of Colombia. And not the B, or the, not being a suplente, how you say in Spanish, not one for the bench and things like that.
Right.
So it's just something for me that it's not that I don't want to give opportunities and things like that. But for me, if we're going to do that, again, it goes into, why not pull a kid from Houston, from the academy, honestly.
Because they haven't tilled the soil there. That's a different conversation, which
I know, but then we go again into this like crazy.
And that's the reason. That's the reason when you go into Dynamo too. The same reason why they're bringing all these other players from other places, right? The kid from Club America, right? Brooklyn Reigns from out in Arizona. Even Dynamo too. They're bringing in guys from other places instead of finding guys here in the Houston market, because again, it's a long conversation into broken relationships, into not tilling the soil, into, I argue, the coaching staff or just the staff overall.
It's a combination of things, and like you said, we have to like dedicate, once the season's over, we can just have a whole pod of just the Dynamo Academy. But one of the recent signings, or not so recent, but one of the ones that kind of really pops to my head is Cucho Hernandez. He's a Colombian player. He's 23 years old. Right. He's a forward. He was very well known enough in the Colombian league to really. And
he goes to Columbus, by the way.
And he goes to Columbus.
After Mendelssohn, this is where they're supposedly coming from.
Exactly. He goes to Columbus, and knowing he's a player that he's had, good teams under his belt in the Colombian league, and he is known. He's also been in the, in several categories of the Colombian national team. So it's a player that, he's not the best well known, but he's still well known. You can, pull him up and see what he's done. You can see
and it's been a home run, it looks like, for Columbus.
Exactly. So if Columbus can do that, pick up on these players that aren't, so famous yet in the Colombian league, but are going up, and he's coming to the MLS. And you're bringing on, no offense to Quiñones, I have not been able to talk to him. I haven't interviewed him. It is not a personal thing, but it's just the player wise for me. It's the thing that.
And it's tough for the kid, right? To put all this 20-year-old to.
Yeah. And then we go into like the Manotas situation. Yeah, Manotas was good. Was he great?
Oh, it took him seasons. He wasn't he wasn't what he was in his best year right away. It took him about like 4 seasons to get there.
And Manotas is an amazing, I was able to interview him, always respectful, and that's nothing that's personal. Once again, I mentioned that because I always try to separate what's personal and what's on the field. And Manotas was not it for me for the Dynamo. And I think that now he's a better player. He grew, and now he's, his career is better. He's playing in Liga MX still, I think. But it's really hard for me to say this is a good move again, because it's like deja vu for me, to say this is the player that's really going to make a difference.
Because it was besides the Herrera signing, which honestly happened before the transfer window, although it counts for the summer, really those were your two moves of the summer. So for a team that preaches they're trying to make the playoff, that was their goal. The lack of action, I think, says otherwise. So game against Minnesota coming up this week. It's actually a doubleheader. It's I think 2 p.m., 2:30 on Univision TUDN, so it's nationally broadcast. Later on in the day, it'll be Dynamo 2 versus Minnesota 2 up there as well. I've said, I'm saying this week the positive is they play during the day. They don't gotta get home after a loss at 4 a.m. They can be back home at 8 p.m. or it's not gonna be that rough of a week. So get in. If you take the L, you're back in town, and it's move on to the game against LAFC and see if you can give some fans a good show at home. We'll see. Yeah, well, you got anything to add on that?
I mean, going into the game with Minnesota, just briefly, honestly, I think that it's going to be a very difficult game for the Dynamo.
Yeah, they lost to them at home, and they didn't have Reynoso then, so now they actually
that's what I'm saying.
It's at their place.
Victor, I'm trying to be polite here while saying this is going to be a very difficult game. Can you just bear with me? So I really don't think, and I don't mean to laugh, it's just that for me, it's, once you've covered this team so long, and you're trying to really bring out, the best, because you want the sport to grow in Houston, right? And you want the team to grow as well. But it's really sometimes difficult to say, hey, the Dynamo is going to do well and it's going to do fine, when you honestly are looking at the paper, you're looking at the results, you're looking at the games, you're looking at the players, and it's really not it. And it's something new that I saw in Google, actually. I don't know if it's new, but I just discovered it, that it kind of gives you the win probability. If you go into Google and you type in Minnesota versus Houston, since obviously they don't have the lineups yet and nothing like that, it kind of gives you the probability. So right now, as of today, it says that there's 54% that Minnesota is going to win. There's 24% that it's going to draw, and then 22% that the Dynamo will win. So it's just,
wow.
Yeah,
it's actually better odds than that would.
Yeah, that's what I said. I'm like, so maybe they're onto something. I don't know. Hopefully, they'll be the underdog and take the win, and hopefully that's what happens. But for me, it's really difficult because it's against a team that has been stepping strong during the season. They're actually, I want to say they're fourth in the Western. I want to say fourth or fifth. I can't remember. So. I mean, I think that it's going to be a difficult game. It's an away game. Notoriously, the Dynamo has not been the best when they're playing away. Yeah, fourth place. There you go. So it's just looking into the past history and looking into how the team is currently. But why not pull off a tie? I mean, maybe.
Oh, well, the shades of the Houston Dynamo. But speaking of which, by the way, and also if you want to catch up on Dynamo stuff for this week, there's a Dynamo notebook up on thestriker.com. Get you situated with the latest around the club. I'm looking to have a piece there before the game on Quiñones, a little bit of what he said, his expectations. So we'll have that up too. But I want to take you into some of the other storylines this week. Obviously, Herrera earlier in this week was training separately, back with the team on Thursday. So I mean, it seems like it might just have been the start treatment, right? I'm gonna just work on my own a little bit today.
I mean, well, he's trying to be better. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe he'll be the one that scores 5 goals.
Well. Yeah, we'll see. He's got an assist. We'll start with that. His record is not that great, by the way, with the Houston Dynamo. It's 1 win, I believe it's 5 losses and 2 draws. So look into.
But what would you rate him from 1 to 10? What would you rate him right now? His performance.
Herrera with Dynamo?
Yes.
Oh, I'd say a 7. I mean, it's been
high.
solid. I think he's been okay. Considering also he's been asked to play higher up the field, do a little bit more. I don't think he's been sharp because I think there's moments where other teams have gotten the better of him. I think part of that is his age, but
I think he's picking up quickly in the style and the formation and everything. I think he's actually picking up quickly.
Yeah, I mean, a player like him is gonna fit in fine. I think it's just they're asking him to do too much. They're asking to be a difference maker and provide results, and I think that's
It's a
rough.
lot.
With
It's a lot.
but we'll see how that develops. He is, I think he is enjoying the move to Houston. I went to a Dubas charity a couple weeks back. Was at the Houston Astros the other night with Urquidy, his new Mexican pal here in
Yeah.
town. So that looks good. Let's run through some of the news here. Quintero got fined, by the way,
Oh
for that
yeah, man.
85th-minute
I
simulation.
honestly look again, Colombians, come on. But this is like but this is a very Latino. I want to say Latino. And you or yeah, I think it's a very Latino thing, especially in the leagues that I follow, the Colombian league, the Mexican league, the Argentinian league. I don't know, but it's kind of like the faking, and they call it, in Spanish is like tener el diente, or having what would be an English way to kind of say having like the la malicia, or
colmillo.
colmillo.
It's like
See, English doesn't have that many synonyms, so I'm trying to really think of what would be the proper translation.
I don't know. It's like street
so kind
smart.
of,
I mean, you're just trying to.
yeah. We could say street smart, kind of like pitch smart, if you would say.
It's kind of translates to like flopping in the NBA, where so I don't like it the way. I mean, I think if you're
at the end of the day,
if you're winning.
Yeah,
if
it is
you're winning
flopping.
and you're in that right situation, I think it's fine. But come on, man.
So let's just say streetwise. Yeah, let's say streetwise. So he was like, okay, I can get something out of this that's going to be a positive for me or for my team. So basically, anyways, he got caught up, and tell us what happened.
Yeah. Oh, you got it's like a slap on the wrist. These MLS fines aren't anything. But if you want to see the video, there's a link to it on the Striker Dynamo notebook. Real quick, we talked about Houston Dynamo. Tab Ramos got fired for having the team in last place in back-to-back seasons, although it may end up that way this year. Ultimately, he's found a new job, Hartford Athletic, in the USL Championship. So that's and by the way, shout out to our USL coverage on the Striker.
Yeah, I was gonna say that
the
too.
Striker Texas podcast. If you want to,
they have a good podcast this week, and the title is what is it? We love Wilmer.
We love Wilmer.
Wilmer Cabrera, which Dynamo fans know who Wilmer
another
Cabrera is.
Coach,
exactly, another ex-Dynamo coach.
Championship. So I don't know if that says more about the Dynamo hiring process or the.
I mean, he's an RGV now, and there's some interesting things going on. So for sure, check out the podcast.
I think they're in last place or something, which it was all predictable in Wilmer's case. I think if you saw what he did at the Houston Dynamo,
but he had a good run with them the first time, so I think that's kind of like
that's his MO. He did that last year at RGV, good first season, and then things fall apart. So,
but anyways, the Striker Texas is the USL podcast with some amazing comments with a lot of our co-workers, you would say, in a sense. So check that out for sure.
Speaking of Czech, Jonathan Czech has the USL
there you go.
article that he does. So we'll you can catch up on all of the USL stuff on that as well. Let's head over to our big topic of the. And I don't know if we have enough time for this one. We're going to try to see if we can cram it in. If not,
5 minutes. 5 minutes. Come on, we can do this because we're about to close.
Big news. Dynamo owner Ted Segal obviously bought controlling interest last year. In June, it was presented, made official. Now he's bought out the rest of the percentage owned by Gabriel Brenner, Oscar de la Hoya, and Ben Gill. So 3 of those minority owners, they're out. You don't got to worry about them anymore. Good riddance. Don't let the door hit you on the way out.
I mean, it's true.
And kind of goes more to Ted Segal making it his own club. Laule's, we could say is his right hand man. It's kind of what we've seen. It's one of the vice presidents of the club now under Ted Segal. Also seems to have his own investment firm. I think again partner of Segal for a while in other businesses. So he's part now of the ownership group with whatever little percentage James Harden has. But a big moment, again, I'm going to dive into a little more in writing on the striker.com, but big moment for the club, right? Ted Segal making it his own. and we've obviously seen the moves with the dash as well. So it's
Oh yeah, the dash is something else.
there's one positive here in I guess if you want to call it in this season, that the proactiveness of the owner continues to show.
And I kind of just wanted to read, one of the statements that we got from Segal. It's that he wrote, I firmly believe that we are building the right culture and infrastructure to compete for championships. And I also remain firmly committed to using the club's platform to affect positively change in our community. So for me, that sounds amazing. It sounds perfect. And I hope that at the end he comes through, because it's something that would be amazing. I think Houston really is aching for a soccer team, a men's soccer team, because I think the Dash is on a different, it's going through something different than the Dynamo is. But I think that I really want to think and believe that Ted will, eventually take this team to where it really deserves to be.
Yeah, I think at least on the Dash side, it's easier to fix things with money, because the women's game, it's easier to compete there with less money, right? I think we've seen some of the moves. Ebony Salmon, for example, it would probably just be any other move in MLS. In the NWSL,
It's still growing a lot. It's still growing a lot, but at the same time, it's growing very quickly. So I think that the changes are being done that need to be done now, because at a point it's gonna be very difficult. Yeah. It's gonna be like the MLS.
I guess my point is $1 million goes a longer way in the NWSL than it does in MLS. So that's why I think it's gonna take a little longer also with the MLS product. But I think the proactiveness there can also be strengthened. We got a couple questions on this. With the news of Ted buying a more of a majority, will there be a bigger influx in the off season? I think it's wait and see, right? If that's from Christopher Oscar. Also,
I hope so.
If another big name like Herrera will be coming to the team,
there better be.
I think I've grown into this wait and see with the Houston Dynamo. Obviously, Segal has shown proactiveness.
I'm just gonna say they better.
But we'll
be.
See.
That's it.
I'll say we'll see. Knowledge about the new owner. I mean, again, I think Leos is the right hand man of Segal. That's why he's on as an investor. Will Laura Gomez news ever snap like the rest of us?
Is that a question? That's funny.
It is a question.
I think I snapped today in this podcast. Honestly, I think. But there's a lot of different ways of snapping. I mean, I need you to be a little bit more detailed in such questions. Snapping what?
All right.
Snap my fingers, what?
Chris says dream playoff matchups this season. I think Austin LAFC would be one in the playoffs. I think LAFC versus either Portland or Seattle in the Western Conference Final for me would be one.
I want to see different teams. Honestly, some people might, hate on me for saying this, but I want to see Austin. I really do. I mean, if they're doing it right, why not? I'd rather see a Texan team than, a Californian team.
Yeah. Some Dynamo fans might hate this, but Austin, FC Dallas in the playoffs. I mean, if the two Texas teams are there, let's see them face off. Eastern Conference, obviously Toronto's on the up. Maybe it's Toronto, Philadelphia.
I like Toronto.
I'd like to see. I think it's heading this way, but I'd say Toronto LAFC MLS final. Bob Bradley coming to LA.
You heard it here first.
We'll see. We will see. But that I think that would certainly be the dream for the MLS. Whoever's writing the scripts for MLS, if there are any. All right.
But I think that's what we have for now with the time that we have.
Real quick, one of your, I guess, wish matchups for the playoffs. Which one would you?
I think you kind of covered it. I think the last one that you mentioned, and just having Austin facing whoever, I think those would be the ones that I would be rooting for, honestly.
Yeah, you're a secret Austin fan, aren't you?
I'm not a secret Austin fan. I'm not. You know what though? Let me. Now that we're talking about Austin, Verde. When they say Los Verdes, that's from Atlético Nacional from Colombia. Okay, so it does rub me the wrong way if we're gonna talk about stuff here. But nonetheless, I do want them to be in the playoffs, even though they, sometimes, you're from Houston, and I love Houston through and through. And it's kind of like if you see them succeeding, you're like, oh, I don't want them. But then at the same time, I want soccer to grow more in Texas. So I put that behind my personal reasonings. And I'm just like, hey, if they're going to be in the finals, it's a shout out to, having a team that's from Texas in the national stage. So
All
that's
right.
how I see it.
Let's get out of here before we get you more in trouble. Inside the Hexagon, again, strikerstexas.com. Check it out. And we'll see you after the Minnesota result.
Until next time. Bye.